Chapter 1680, 1 Heavenly Dao Star. The ghost train kept shuttling through the void of Tianhai City. In fact, it was within the scope of Tianhai City and could not leave too far. Otherwise, Ho Tu's ability would be ineffective. Relying solely on the power of the curse, it was impossible to impose too much restriction on the gatekeeper of the underworld. Although the first level of Heavenly God Dao did not cause direct damage, this kind of power restraint was very critical. Without this layer of shackles, the risk of Zhang Yi and others being killed instantly would be greatly increased. Create an opportunity. Now I can see that if you want to cause damage to the gatekeeper of the underworld, you can only rely on Go Chun. Zhang Yi said, and looked back at Li Changgong behind him. Li Changgong's face was a little embarrassed. He wanted to point at himself now, and then show a black question mark face. If there is a chance, I will take action. A drop of cold sweat had unconsciously flowed down his side face. Let him get close to the black armor, and he will be killed instantly if he is not careful. Whether he can survive at that time depends on how well Zhang Yi and Shang Daowen defend themselves. Zhang Yi exhaled a breath of turbid air, and his eyes became sharp. Then, let's get started. We must make him bleed as quickly as possible. Otherwise, once his patience runs out, we won't have a chance. The Hades gatekeeper didn't use his power at all. Zhang Yi had known this when he was fighting the god of the nest in Neon. When underground creatures move on land, they must limit their own power. Once the limit is broken, they will be wiped out by some mysterious and powerful force. No one knows what level this limit is. It is precisely because of this that the god of the nest was directly killed by the thunder after being delayed by Zhang Yi for a period of time. And now the Hades gatekeeper, because he is not clear about the boundaries of the rules, slowly releases his power. During this period of time, it is Zhang Yi and his team who must go all out.
Boom.
The ghost train passes through the void and is about to appear in front of the Hades gatekeeper again. Zhang Yi said in the communication channel, "Let's start. Our tactics are going to work. Let them have a good taste of what the world is like for the surface people." At this moment, it was midnight, the sky was dim, but the lizard men could see everything around them clearly with their sensitivity to light and advanced combat armor. Outside Tianhai City, a silver motorcycle stopped in the snow. Deng Shintong, wearing a silver combat uniform and with long hair fluttering in the wind, leaned on the motorcycle, waiting for someone's signal. After Zhang Yi's signal came, he smiled slightly. "Okay, I understand." He stood up from the motorcycle, looked up at the dark sky, and then smiled and slowly put his hands together. Now that he has reached the realm of Epsilon, his strength is not enough to enter the front battlefield. But due to the information provided by the big dragon cat, Zhang Yi discovered his important role in this battle. In Deng Shintong's palms, a warm light quickly emerged, and his whole body was silvery white, as spotless as an angel. This light illuminated the dark space around him. He slowly opened his hands, and a small silver sphere floated from his palms, emitting a bright light. "Go, Tiandao Star." Deng Shintong lifted his hands, and the small, but solid white sphere quickly flew into the sky and hovered over the city of Tianhai City. It was dark night, and there was no moon in the sky. The silver sphere burst into silver light, like a silver moon across the sky. This sudden light made the entire Tianhai City, including the surrounding areas, bright. Everyone subconsciously raised their heads and looked at the sky. The aliens of the Wulwan Empire didn't know what this was, but Newton, Cartier's, and others smiled meaningfully when they saw this scene. Feel the malice of the surface people. Lizards. The small silver sphere emitting a soft silver light suddenly became hot, and then the scorching, bright light burst out in just an instant. The silver moon turned into a huge, blazing sun, burning in the sky, with scorching temperature and strong ultraviolet rays sweeping across all directions. There was no sun in the sky originally, but now the sun appeared, and it was even more terrifying than the hottest sun at noon in midsummer. Deng Shintong stood on the ground, and a silver force on his body connected to the sun in the sky in an ethereal manner. "Go, Zhang Yi. The next thing will be left to you," Deng Shintong said with a smile. When this extremely hot ultraviolet light swept across the earth, all the lizard men covered by the sunlight suddenly felt as if their bodies were burning. Even though they were wearing the most advanced armor of the Wulwan Empire that could resist ultraviolet rays, the feeling of strong light exposure and the armor part that could not completely isolate the light source still made them feel uncomfortable, as if they were stepping into a raging fire. What is this? Several silver armors found it difficult to remain calm. They could not raise their heads and look directly at the scorching sun above their heads. The human side had already made preparations. There were measures to avoid strong light on the combat uniforms, and the goggles were turned into sunglasses. Deng Shintong's heavenly star can cover a range of up to thousands of kilometers. Although it was not possible to directly kill the aliens in the Fog Valley, it directly brought a huge advantage to the human warriors on the entire battlefield. The gatekeeper of the underworld subconsciously raised his hand to block the sunlight falling from space. The fog would block the light, and the scattered light made him feel like he was in a furnace, very uncomfortable. What kind of method is this? It's ridiculous. The gatekeeper of the underworld scolded lightly. At this time, the ghost train rumbled again. At the moment when he raised his hand to block the sun, Zhang Yi took the lead in launching his attack. He opened his right hand and clenched it into a claw, as if he wanted to crush the enemy in front of him, and shouted viciously, "God's domain, pure tribulation, break it for me." A huge force centered on the gatekeeper of the underworld and squeezed it hard, as if to crush his flesh and pinch it into a meatball. This terrifying force fell on the gatekeeper of the underworld, and indeed made his body shake a little, and his muscles tensed up. "Oh, so that's how you attack? Interesting, but it's useless." The Hades gatekeeper laughed. He found it hilarious to see these ants trying their best to deal with him. One of Zhang Yi's ultimate moves didn't even damage an inch of his muscle. "Sorry, you're not my target." Zhang Yi laughed instead. The Hades gatekeeper suddenly realized that the armor on his body broke apart with a crack. The armor on his right arm fell off with a clatter. It was exposed to the sunlight. Chapter 1682 Armor Breaking. The armor on the arm of the Hades gatekeeper was directly shattered by Zhang Yi's divine domain purification. Just as Zhang Yi expected, the Wulwan Empire soldiers, who were so strong, actually didn't need everyone to wear full body armor. One of the main reasons was the same as when Zhang Yi entered the deep sea and the sky. They could not fully adapt to the surface environment at this time, and one of the functions of armor was to allow them to adapt to the environment here. It was difficult for Zhang Yi to cause damage to the Hades gatekeeper, but he could still shatter his armor. Sure enough, the red skin exposed to the outside quickly changed after being exposed to the strong ultraviolet rays from the outside world. The skin became darker red, and large patches of dark red patches appeared. "Success. This is it," Zhang Yi said happily. However, soon, the armor on the Hades gatekeeper's body actually extended apart and repaired the lost armor on his arm by itself. This armor is so smart that it can repair itself. However, as long as we seize the opportunity and attack a few more times, it will be fine, Li Changgong said in surprise. Zhang Yi frowned, but he knew in his heart that it would not be so easy to find another opportunity to attack the Hades gatekeeper. After all, it is almost impossible to let a powerful person suffer twice in the same place. In any case, Zhang Yi planned to try it. The divine realm of purification was already preparing, just waiting for the energy to gather before launching the second attack. But this time, the Hades gatekeeper did not give them another chance. He glanced at his arm and said lightly, "Oh, so you have such a plan. Interesting, it turns out that ants are also somewhat intelligent. But it's not enough to deal with me." He raised his head and looked at Zhang Yi and Zhang Yi and others were riding the ghost train and crossing the Hades gatekeeper. Zhang Yi's heart showed signs of danger, and he shouted immediately, "Hide." Dai Sheng immediately activated his ability and sent the ghost train directly to another place. The Hades gatekeeper was indifferent. The initial trial phase is over. "I don't want to play this boring game with you anymore." The ghost train gave Zhang Yi and his team a chance to launch a surprise attack. However, after the same trick failed to work after several attempts, a powerful being like the Hades gatekeeper naturally discovered its weakness. Although the ghost train is elusive, isn't it enough to just seize the short time it appears to launch an attack? His eyes swept in all directions. Since we can't tell the direction clearly, isn't it enough to just destroy everything? He raised his right hand and opened his palm. A terrifying energy condensed in his palm, forming a black solid sphere. Star of Destruction. After the black energy sphere solidified, it suddenly burst out from his palm and casually fired directly in the direction in front of him.
Bow.
The terrifying pressure swept everything in front of him in a fan-shaped posture in an instant. The fog formed by the formation could not be broken, but Tianhai City, which was hidden in the 9 palaces and 8 formations, actually withstood a considerable impact. The earth was directly shattered. This blow stretched for dozens of kilometers, causing the earth to tremble violently. In the 2 large shelters in the northwest and northeast, tens of thousands of people were desperately fleeing. Feeling the fluctuations caused by the terrifying power, they were all frightened and uneasy. Is this world going to be destroyed? Someone cried in fear. Escape. Escape to Jianghua City. Staying here will definitely die. Quick, quick, quick. The soldiers in the shelter shouted loudly, urging those who had already been frightened to leave quickly. Human life is cheaper than grass, and no one cares about their life or death now. On this side, the attack of the gatekeeper of the underworld was like a violent storm, with no intention of stopping at all. He stood in midair and continuously fired the Star of Destruction at the surrounding space. This extremely powerful attack method became an ordinary casual attack in his hands. One after another, black energy bodies were released, and the entire Tianhai City was riddled with holes in an instant. The only good news was that Zhang Yi and his team had considered this problem at the beginning, so they attracted him to the center of Tianhai City. Otherwise, his attack would most likely directly hit the 36 heavenly gangs at the border of Tianhai City, thus causing the formation to disappear. However, continuing like this is not a solution at all. It won't be long before he finds out where the problem is, and it's only a matter of time before the formation is broken. We must take action and delay him, Shang Dawen said in a deep voice. If the 9 palaces and 8 formations want to successfully trap the gatekeeper of the underworld, they must cooperate with them. Otherwise, the 36 heavenly gangs can only use the maze to dazzle the gatekeeper of the underworld. How to attack? Can we block his attack? Li Changgong said with a frown. His way of attacking as defense can indeed block the single attack of the gatekeeper of the underworld. But facing that kind of indiscriminate large-scale attack, his eye and the will of heaven will also become weak. Unless you give him, if they had a chance to get close to the gatekeeper of the underworld and stab him, they would have a chance of winning. Otherwise, there would be no point in them taking action now. We must find his weakness as soon as possible. Once he adapts to the surface environment and starts to attack with all his strength, we will all die. Shang Dawen shouted in a deep voice. Zhang Yi remained silent. If he really encountered such a situation, he could only choose to take away as many people as possible from the battlefield. You can try again, he suddenly said after thinking for a while. The ghost train kept shuttling between various space nodes to avoid being in a fixed area and being discovered by the gatekeeper of the underworld. Everyone looked at Zhang Yi, wanting to know what he could do. At this point, Zhang Yi could no longer retain his strength. Try again, I don't know if I can stop his attack. He took a deep breath, but said in a very serious tone. Shang Dawen and Li Changgong were surprised, and Alexei also stared at Zhang Yi for a long time, with a strange light flashing in his eyes. Hey, Lao Zhang, don't joke like that. That guy's strength is at least 10,000 points higher than yours. Are you really sure? Zhang Yi never fights a battle without confidence. No time for nonsense. Anyway, Shang Dawen gives me telekinetic barrier support, and I'm responsible for blocking his attack. Now he is familiar with our offensive methods. As soon as we show our heads later, we will probably be locked by him. Take advantage of this opportunity, find a way to give him a blow. At the very least, you have to break his armor. Chapter 1683 Tyrant. Zhang Yi gritted his teeth and said fiercely, "Even a big shark will become a weak fish meat when it reaches land. The gatekeeper of the underworld cannot stop the laws of nature." Completely destroying the black armor on his body and exposing his body to ultraviolet rays can give them a better chance of winning. "You are really brave." Li Changgong rarely admires others, but this time, he praised Zhang Yi sincerely. "Stop talking nonsense," Tianji Xing, prepare to move the ghost train. The silver bracelet on Zhang Yi's wrist instantly deformed, and the twisted silver vines turned into a long knife. The tail end inserted into his arm and absorbed his strength. "Got it." In the driver's cabin of the ghost train, Tianji Xing Daisheng was wearing a captain's uniform and looking forward with a stern look. His supernatural power was activated, and the coordinates of the area around the gatekeeper of the underworld had been locked in his mind. Swish! The ghost train appeared directly from midair, rumbling through the void. The moment the train appeared, the body of the gatekeeper of the underworld, which was bombarding, immediately stopped for a short time. He did not hesitate at all, and did not even look back, but just pointed his right hand to the right. Star of Destruction. A supernatural cannon with powerful destructive power swept across the entire space where the ghost train appeared. Zhang Yi stood in front of the train. At this time, he was nervous and excited, and he exploded his supernatural power to the extreme. The sword in the tree in his right hand burst out instantly with his low shout, and began to split from the tip of the sword like a blooming flower. Bang! A sword in the tree turned into tens of thousands of silver vines in just an instant, covering an area of no less than 30 kilometers in radius. The growth rate and toughness of the sword in the tree of the Ypsilon level are now terrifying. And most importantly, it is itself transformed by an alien, and as a plant, it has super high compatibility and growth. Zhang Yi asked Liu Karen to inject E-metal into the sword in the tree. This further strengthened its toughness and sharpness. The slender vines in the sky quickly crossed and combined, and unexpectedly woven into a huge silver net in front of the entire ghost train. Zhang Dawen did not hesitate at all, and directly used the telekinetic barrier to bless Zhang Yi's net. At the same time, Zhang Yi also unfolded all things and activated the ability of time and space countercurrent. Just to block an attack from the Hades gatekeeper, Zhang Yi had to use all his strength to deal with it. Boom! The black energy body hit the net fiercely, and the huge net layered up and sank deeply in an instant, and each vine suddenly tightened. Snap! 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 The sound of vines breaking kept coming, and the net was almost completely broken. The huge net was pulled to an extreme point, as if it was about to be broken at any time. But after a stalemate of less than 2 seconds, it finally withstood the full force of the Hades gatekeeper. Even the Hades gatekeeper himself did not expect this, and there was a look of surprise in his eyes. Do it! Zhang Yi had already consumed a huge amount of energy to block the opponent's attack, and the next thing had to be handed over to Li Changgong and Alexei. Rumble. The ghost train took this opportunity to shuttle through the void. It was originally 4 or 5 kilometers away from the gatekeeper of Hades, but in an instant it came to within 1 kilometer of him. Here, Li Changgong's knife could cut the body of the gatekeeper of Hades, and Alexei's battle axe could also cause thunder to strike him. Oh, 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 oh. In Alexei's eyes, silver lightning violently rioted. As the thunder tyrant, he raised the battle axe in his hand high and used his sturdy arms that had been chopping wood for a lifetime to cause the roaring thunder, aiming at the head of the gatekeeper of Hades and chopping it down. The gatekeeper of Hades' eyes condensed, and Alexei's timing of attack was just right, at the same time he attacked. However, he still did not move, but a group of terrifying dark light burst out from his body, sweeping in all directions. Sky meteor. Black light burst out, blocking Alexei's lightning axe. Crack. The huge axe chopped on the dark spherical energy, and the two powerful powers collided fiercely. However, there was still a huge gap between Alexei's power and the Hades gatekeeper. The thunder axe was shattered in less than half a second. Roar, 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 roar. Alexei became even more angry. He couldn't tolerate his attack being ignored, so he suddenly chopped down with his left hand. The two thunderbolts hit the energy of the dark star heavily, but they couldn't destroy it. Instead, his thunder was instantly shattered. At this moment, Alexei made an amazing move. He actually jumped from the top of the ghost train to the Hades gatekeeper. This action directly frightened Zhang Dawen and others. You know, if they lost the protection of the ghost train, facing the gatekeeper of the underworld directly would be tantamount to seeking death. But they didn't understand that this was Alexei's way of fighting, to move forward courageously and live towards death. As a member of a fighting nation, he never fears death and will never show cowardice in the face of a powerful enemy. The stronger the enemy, the crazier he gets. This is the origin of the tyrant ability. Crack. A terrifying lightning bolt fell from the sky, and Alexei roared, his eyes already covered with strong lightning and anger. He raised his battle axe in his sturdy arms and chopped down the Hades gatekeeper with both axes. Thor's full-strength attack hit the Hades gatekeeper's dark star. At this moment, Zhang Yi and Zhang Dawen clearly saw that under his life-threatening attack, he really broke a corner of the Hades gatekeeper's unsolvable defense. His defense was broken. But after this attack, Alexei himself was not feeling well. The huge backlash of power caused his body to be thrown out like a kite with a broken string, and blood gushed out of his mouth in large quantities. Zhang Yi growled, "Do it." Zhang Dawen raised his right hand and used telekinesis to drag Alexei's body towards the ghost train. Alexei's behavior was not reckless. He did this just to create an opportunity, like Zhang Yi. To create an opportunity for Li Changgong to attack without any pressure. Among all the people, only his unsolvable ability could really hurt the gatekeeper of the underworld. Zhang Yi and Alexei tried their best to block the two attacks of the gatekeeper of the underworld for him, and Li Changgong certainly did not dare to miss this great opportunity. Chapter 1680, For a Moment of Opportunity. He had been preparing for the II posture for a long time. When the knife was unsheathed, it would be unimaginably fast. Pang! His knife really came out of the sheath, like a snow-white streak rushing straight into the body of the Hades gatekeeper, aiming at the central axis of his body and trying to split him in half from the middle. At this time, the Hades gatekeeper finally felt a hint of danger. This made him feel incredible. These weak humans could actually hurt him, but the knife light that was approaching the body in an instant had a momentum that could chop everything into pieces. Facing this knife, the Hades gatekeeper had just dealt with Zhang Yi and Alexei, and his body had not yet returned to the normal response posture. So, at the moment when the knife light approached his body, he made a move. He was in midair, gently turning his body sideways. Li Changgong's knife was already fast enough, but his movements seemed to be faster than Li Changgong's knife. So fast that people couldn't see his figure clearly at all, and the bright knife light passed by him. I am the will of heaven, and I can cut off all attacks, just like that. The pupils of Zhang Yi and the others suddenly shrank, and their eyes were filled with unspeakable regret and unwillingness. Alexei fought desperately, and was seriously injured. He coughed up blood and was helpless when he saw this scene. The gap in strength is really too big. The ability of the gatekeeper of the underworld is simple and unpretentious, without any fancy things, but often the simplest things are the most difficult to deal with. Because he has almost no weaknesses. Whether it is close combat or long range means it is so terrifying that it is unattainable. He can perfectly dodge this fatal knife in a millimeter. A desperate feeling of powerlessness enveloped everyone's heart. Facing an opponent of this level, how should we fight? Zhang Yi's heart was heavy. Is it that we have to use that last trick now? But can that trick really kill this terrifying monster? If even that fails, the entire Huaxiu kingdom will be completely finished. At this moment, a crisp sound attracted everyone's attention. Crack. Zhang Yi looked up suddenly and saw that the armor on the Hades gatekeeper was cracked. No, to be exact, the armor on his chest was neatly cut off and fell to the ground. We didn't fail. He didn't dodge that knife. Shang Dawen said excitedly. Li Chonggong also laughed excitedly. Just a little bit, just a little bit. I hit him. As long as he sheds a drop of blood, victory will belong to us. The Hades gatekeeper looked down at his broken breastplate. A large piece of breastplate was neatly cut, and the self-repair function could not be used unlimitedly. After all, the materials were limited. Not everyone is Zhang Yi, who carries many spare combat uniforms with him. In the sky, strong ultraviolet rays shone on his chest, and his skin immediately changed color significantly. It was like a human standing on the crater of a volcano. Even humans with good physical fitness could not break through the limitations of biological properties and had no reaction to extreme high temperatures. Therefore, even the top strong men of the Wulwan tribe, such as the Hades gatekeeper, could not completely adapt to the environment full of ultraviolet rays. He was furious in an instant, raised his head, and looked at Zhang Yi and others with naked killing intent. Then he raised his right fist and punched out instantly from a distance of 1 kilometer. Plain and ordinary, but it was such a fist full of destructive power, wrapped in unimaginable power and a whistling storm, that blasted towards the ghost train where Zhang Yi and others were. At this moment, the furious gatekeeper of the underworld made the crisis of death shroud the hearts of Zhang Yi and others. The 4 people felt that the air was compressed into a ball, and his throat became extremely irritable, and it was difficult to breathe. In the train, Ho Tu, who was sitting upright in her seat, had a sharp look. She put down the carving knife in her hand and whispered, Ashura Road. With the ghost train as the center, the field of the 6 reincarnations was completely opened. In the dark void, 2 figures appeared in this area. 1 tall and 1 short, 1 fat and 1 thin. These are her latest Azura puppets, Shadow and Destroy Hall. The people killed by her can be collected into her reincarnation, and their abilities and even combat power can be completely replicated, and then they can be summoned for use. After the appearance of Yuying and Mietong, they immediately blocked the front of the ghost train. Yuying raised his hands and summoned hundreds of shadow giants, while Mietong gathered his supernatural powers with both hands and condensed the destruction energy cannon to fight against the gatekeeper of the underworld. Boom! After the dazzling light flashed, the 2 Shuras were directly wiped out. However, their appearance also blocked most of the attacks for Zhang Yi and others, and the remaining aftermath was all resolved by Zhang Yi and Shang Dawen. Rumble! The ghost train drove into the void again and shuttled to another area. The danger of the main battlefield is unimaginable to others, but now on the entire battlefield, no one has the leisure to care about the lives of others. The opponents they each face are also very powerful and dangerous. From the ocean to the land, too. Fierce battles were going on everywhere. Liang Yu and Hua Hua had been on standby. They were at the edge of Tianhai City. Even though the battles were already fierce everywhere, they had no intention of taking action. All of this was due to the task Zhang Yi had given them. Your strength is not enough to determine the outcome of a battle, especially when facing those black chariot-level aliens. So, the best time to enter the battlefield is after the battle reaches a certain stage. Then you can take action and harvest the entire battlefield. When Zhang Yi said this, he subconsciously touched his nose. He seemed a little cunning, but his expression was very frank, and he said, If we can win this battle, we will get a lot of high-level alien origins. These things, we have no chance to get them on weekdays. The number of Ipsilon in the human world is limited. Where can you find so many origins? So you must learn to see opportunities in crises. If you seize this opportunity, it will not only not miss the opportunity to fight, but also accelerate your own growth. This is Zhang Yi's plan. Therefore, as a mobile force, they have not taken action, but have been gathering their strength, waiting for the most critical moment on the battlefields, and then directly entering the battlefield to reap the harvest. The other battlefields are basically old opponents, and they are very clear about each other's abilities. Therefore, the battle situation is very stalemate, and no one can defeat anyone in a short period of time. When the power of the entire Huashu kingdom is mobilized and both space-based weapons and sky-dimensional weapons can be used, even if the number of Black Chariot-level aliens is not large enough, they can use the home advantage to fight the alien troops of the Wulwan Empire on equal terms. However, the alien troops of the Wulwan Empire don't care about this at all.
What
they are waiting for is for their Grand Marshal to kill the most powerful group of aliens in the coalition, and then lead them to sweep the entire battlefield. Chapter 1680, 5 Yang Xinshin's Analysis. Zhang Yi and others used the ghost train to become invisible again. The gatekeeper of the underworld, whose armor was cut finally, began to feel irritated. He originally thought that this time he came, he would directly sweep everything and destroy this human country. Unexpectedly, he always fell into the rhythm of the opponent and had overwhelming strength but could not quickly achieve results. Especially after the armor was destroyed, his body was exposed to the strong ultraviolet environment, which made him strongly uncomfortable. He clenched his fists and began to bombard the surroundings indiscriminately, with more violent means. If he continued at this pace, he would soon destroy the entire Tianhai city and rush to the edge of Tianhai city. At that time, he only needed to attack casually, and it was possible to erase the 36 Tiangang on the edge of the city, thereby cracking the 9 palaces and 8 arrays. Zhang Yi and others fled to another area, and they were still within the scope of Tianhai City. The first thing to do was naturally to inject Alexei with drugs. Zhang Yi asked Zhou Qier to come out of the shadow space and treat Alexei. This convenient ability to carry it with you is really enviable. Li Changgong secretly sent a message to Zhang Yi through the communication channel. Zhang Yi, if we lose this battle, you must take me away. As long as the Green Mountains are there, there will be no shortage of firewood. Li Changgong was not stupid, and he quickly figured it out. Zhang Yi glanced at him and said nothing. Are you kidding? At that time, the priority should be to save his own life and the lives of his companions. As for Li Changgong, it depends on his mood. Shang Daowen said at this time, the gatekeeper of Hades is obviously enraged, which also shows that everything we do is indeed effective. We are just a little bit away from successfully injuring him and bleeding. So now we can continue with this tactic. Zhang Yi said without hesitation, it will be difficult. He patiently explained, his strength is definitely more than what he has shown now. That punch just now almost killed us all. He is afraid of the mysterious rules, so he didn't use his full strength. But I think if he is willing to take the risk and use more powerful power, I am afraid that we will not be able to block his attack together. Zhang Yi said, looking at Alexei, who was recovering. His body was hit by the power of the gatekeeper of Hades, and he was seriously injured. Not to mention Alexei, even Zhang Yi in the short battle, the dimension gate was destroyed by 1/3, and the energy in his body was lost in large quantities. He has to eat while fighting to replenish the energy in his body. After all, he still needs to support the consumption of the sword in the tree. Up to now, the battle has lasted less than 3 minutes. Now, instead of waiting until the power of heaven takes effect, it is better to think clearly about how to save their lives. They may not be able to stop the gatekeeper of the underworld for long. However, retreat is completely impossible. If they retreat, all the top aliens in Tianhai City gathered here will be killed, and the Wulwan Empire troops will destroy the core areas of each region with great momentum. Huashu Kingdom will be completely finished. It's really abominable. Li Changgong gritted his teeth and said viciously, if only we could use the god of death of love. That is the most powerful weapon of mankind. They had already used it at the beginning of the war, but it didn't cause any harm to the gatekeeper of the underworld. From this, it can be imagined that they must have some means to resist this level of attack. How should they deal with an enemy that even the god of death of love can't kill? We must create a second chance so that Go Chen's knife can cut him, Shang Daowen said. But he is too fast. Now we are on guard against Go Chen's ability. It will be even more difficult to continue to execute the tactics next time, Zhang Yi said. But we have to give it a try. Several people argued endlessly. This battle was too critical for the entire Huashu Kingdom and even for the entire human race. No one dared to be careless. This battle with huge pressure made Zhang Yi unable to calm down completely. At this time, Yang Xinxin's voice rang in Zhang Yi's ears. "Brother, calm down." Her cold, gentle, and pleasant voice gradually sobered up Zhang Yi's confused brain. "Xinxin, do you have any good suggestions?" Yang Xinxin has been observing. She is Zhang Yi's brain and can always provide Zhang Yi with excellent plans. She said calmly and quickly, "The strength of the gatekeeper of Hades is too strong, at least over 40,000 points. In terms of pure strength, he is not at the same level as you. Although your initial tactics were successful, they did not actually cause any damage to him. They only gave him a little trouble. But the further you go, the lower the probability of your success, and the greater the risk of death. Everything comes from the lack of strength." Yang Xinxin's eyes were very solemn. Facing this absolutely leading strength, she couldn't keep her usual calm expression. But she remained calm, because no matter what situation you are facing, keeping a clear mind and not acting blindly can increase your chances of successfully completing the task. Relying on Li Changgong is too risky, so it can only be used as a backup plan. So, we must use the god of death of love. Zhang Yi frowned. "I know this. But the god of death of love doesn't work on him at all." "That's not the case." Yang Xinxin shook her head. "Brother, even your divine realm purification can shatter his armor. So how come he was unscathed under the attack of the god of love and even protected his men?" Zhang Yi's eyes lit up. "Are you saying that he used some special props?" "That's the crux of the problem. Let the district investigate this aspect." Yang Xinxin said lightly, "I have contacted Meng Yuanjun and asked them to analyze the energy fluctuations in the sea area of Tianhai City when the god of love exploded just now." And next, she took a deep breath, compared to taking the initiative to attack. "Brother, please control your temper and do defense first." Zhang Yi thought for a while and said, "Xinxin, if you use your ability, how long can you control him?" Yang Xinxin said decisively, "The length of control time is related to the target's willpower. But I don't recommend doing this, because from the information we have obtained so far, the other party has extremely rich combat experience. Even if he doesn't know my ability, he won't let the arrow of the Angel of Desire hit his body."